2, 1.
Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
California is such a beautiful state. It's so tax-friendly. Nobody's leaving these days. Have you noticed that, Matt?
Oh, I don't know if you're being a little sarcastic here, but I've got a number of people in my neighborhood on a regular basis, and I see those signs in their front yard because they want to take advantage of the value in their home. Is that one of the primary reasons?
Yep. We see a lot of people moving because, they want to capitalize on the equity because California has appreciated more than other spots. But where I see people get into trouble is they're moving just to move. It's almost like an impulse thing. They're just frustrated and they feel helpless and they move. And they move somewhere where they maybe have never visited before or they don't know anybody.
Right.
Or maybe they think they can get a job there. And then they end up not liking it. And then they end up trying to come back. But that's very hard to undo.
Yeah.
When you moved to Mobile, Alabama. Great. You got this great house in Mobile, but you're not coming back to California.
Right. And of course, you deal with this on a regular basis with Made for More Living. And they can find more information at madeformoreliving.com or madeformore.com.
Madeformoreliving.com.
Madeformoreliving.com. Johnny Jennings. So you're experiencing this on a regular basis.
Yep.
What are you seeing with those people that make that impulsive decision? Are you saying that is not something they should be doing?
I definitely would not suggest moving your family on an impulse, decision. But I totally understand why. Like Valerie and I, earlier on in our marriage, traveled all 50 states, and we wanted to figure out where we wanted to live. And there were some states that we thought we would be more interested in. There were some states we thought, there's no interest, but we want to hit all 50 just to check all the boxes. And what we found, spoiler alert, we're in California, right? And so we're from California. We're still in California, so we're going to pay the sunshine tax as long as possible.
Right. Yeah, but you have folks who like you said, they want to retire to a tax-friendlier state.
Yep.
Maybe they want to move closer to the grandkids or the kids, and they do see all of this appreciation in their home. They want to take advantage of it. They want to move to an area where they can get more for their dollar, right?
Yeah.
And so from your experience traveling to all these different states, East Coast, West Coast, South, North, where have you seen that were maybe runner-ups where you would recommend if somebody's determined to move out of Northern California, out of the Sacramento area, where would you recommend and why?
Yeah. So what I'll start with is where we're seeing more people move. Like everybody was talking about Idaho for a hot second, or for years, actually, years ago. I hear very few people moving to Idaho.
And why were people deciding on Idaho? Why did that become the hot destination for people leaving California?
I think the climate was very similar, not exactly the same, but not as extreme as Minnesota to what they were used to in California. And there were some benefits, and you could buy a beautiful property for much less than what you could buy here in California. So they were cash out, buy their forever home in Idaho, and then still have some money in the bank left over. But now prices have gone up in Idaho, same as they've gone up in Montana. Same as so Montana was more like a COVID thing, but we still see a lot of people moving to Texas, a lot of people moving to Florida. The Carolinas, I'm hearing more about the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina. One's more family-friendly, one's more retiree-friendly. And then Tennessee. We hear a lot moving to Tennessee.
What about Texas? What was your experience in Texas?
Man, I don't get it. I really do not get it. So been there a few times.
Is it because of the weather?
Yeah. So for me, it's the weather thing. Especially at the time I was working outside. So I'm in the oil fields. And so I'm coming from the perspective of if I were to be living life out here, if I were to go for a walk, if I was to work outside, if I was to do something, in the great outdoors, what would this be like? And but the first time I went to Texas, Valerie and I drove from Oklahoma City down to Dallas. And so we were at Toby Keith's, he's got this
restaurant?
This restaurant.
Right.
He was at this restaurant. And so we ate breakfast there. We got in the car, cranked up the AC, and drove down to Texas. We get out of the car in Texas, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Because it's just wave of humidity hit me.
Right.
And then the temperature's up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think JFK was shot. I think he was just riding around a Cadillac or a convertible. Okay. So it was
That's hilarious.
The weather's not what we're used to as Californians.
But I mean, everybody has their own personal preference.
Correct.
So what might not be comfortable for you? One of my bosses here at the radio station, he's right now in Phoenix, where on Monday in the middle of spring, it's going to be 96 degrees. He's going to go play golf and he's going to love it.
Yeah.
He's like that, you know.
I prefer dry heat personally, but what shocked me in traveling all the states is how humid the rest of the country is. You get east of the Rockies. I don't care if you're in Texas or if you're in Fargo, North Dakota, or in Wisconsin, there is humidity.
All right. So I want to get from you two recommendations from somebody that's listening. Okay, they're retiring. They're done with their career. They're ready to move and take advantage of the equity in their home, and they want to retire. What's a great place in the United States to take that retirement and move out? So it's a complicated question. All I can say is from my personal preference, Valor and I really liked south of Nashville, Brentwood and Franklin. Oh, right. That's where we liked. So that's a very affluent area, isn't it? Yeah, it feels like home. It feels like Roseville. It feels like Rockland. Does it?
It feels like where we're at right now. The weather it has the 4 seasons. It's not as extreme. An up and comer actually is Arkansas. I'm hearing a lot of people moving to Arkansas. Really? Yeah. I would never think that about Arkansas. Neither would I. And then I have somebody actually right now considering moving into northern Mississippi. So some of those southern areas you're saying is a great recommendation for people that want to retire. If you're looking to save money. The South will blow me away, full transparency. But isn't there humidity in the South as well? There is humidity. But as far as money, what blew me away is how poor the South is. Like really, like you can buy some fantastic properties for much, like pennies on the dollar of what you could get here. Wow. But the reason why it's better for retirees is because you don't have to work. Right, you have your retirement coming in. Sure. If you're a young family and you're looking to move to Dallas, and you're looking to move to Louisiana, or you're looking to move to Florida, their hourly what the typical person earns in those states is much lower than what they're going to earn in Sacramento. Okay. And so you're just trading dollars at that point. Like there's no gain. But if you're taking a lump of money and you have this high salary that's coming in regularly, and now you're moving to a low cost environment, that makes sense. But you also want to make sure that you understand the economics of the state. So they may not have high state income taxes, but they may have high property taxes, and so it may end up being largely a wash. So a great resource is go to WalletHub.com, and they'll actually break down the different states and how their taxes compare to the state that you're in. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, and then lastly, before we go, what are some places you would say to avoid that there, like you said, is a wash, or there's really no benefit, or maybe it's overhyped? It's not all that it's cracked up to be if people are planning to sell California and move elsewhere. Yeah, so we're talking about bad places. So I mean, you mentioned Texas. You think Texas is a little bit overhyped? It's not all that it's cracked up to be? Texas is 1,000% overhyped. 1,000%. Why? The economics aren't really that favorable. Depending on the area that you move to, right? Well, that and just the state economics, right? Like what is something that maybe people haven't fully understand when they move to Texas? They hear about all these great things, the politics, right? Maybe that they're going to get more for their buck in Texas because they've had friends or family, but maybe there's some things that they didn't quite really fully comprehend until they moved there. Because you're right, we've had some friends who moved there, and then they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize that," and they moved back. Property taxes is a big one. Property taxes. Explain the difference between California and Texas when it comes to property tax. So I'm not a pro in how taxes work in Texas, just disclaiming that. But basically, the property taxes are higher than they are here. And so what you may not even feel the property taxes when you're living, year to year in your home here, but you will feel it out there. Oh, okay. And so the state tax is lower, but your property tax is much higher. So the total amount of money that you're paying out to the government is not the same, but it's almost it's on par. And for me, the trade-off isn't worth it. Mm-hmm. And then the average incomes are lower. There's a lot of growth out there. There's if you're wanting to grow a business, if you're wanting to, hey, we're going to restart and we're going to put down roots and we're going to grow. Okay, consider that. But if you're thinking it's just going to be, you're just going to hit the easy button, move to Texas, and it's all going to be roses and rainbows. It's not.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. So if there's somebody listening, whether they're thinking about retiring or they just want to make a job change or they want to take advantage of the equity in their home and they want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you, a conversation of how they can sell their home, and no matter what kind of condition it's in, they want to make some money off their home, how would they do that?
Yeah, so just go ahead, reach out to us. You can Google Made for More Living. You can go to madeformoreliving.com, book an appointment. It's free. Happy to have the conversation. And what I will say is we'll give you options, because this is something we deal with on a regular basis. And so there's not like a one-size-fits-all type of a solution.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also they can even find out what kind of offers they would get on their home and even possibly a cash offer, right?
Yep. So we have a suite of services, different programs ranging from, a buy before you sell. So if you don't want to go through the hassle of living in the home while you're finding your next home, we have a buy before you sell. We have a guaranteed cash offer program. And so we're happy to discuss those options.
Awesome. More to come. Stick around. Mike, wouldn't you agree friends are friends, right?
Yes, not food.
Yeah, friends are friends, not food. Because it can be a little challenging when you get into a business relationship with friends. Like, for instance, Mark and Julia, they wanted to downsize their home in El Dorado Hills, so they called a friend who was a realtor. But their friend was just unable to sell their home, went through a lot of challenges. So they called up our good friend Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves real estate team. And guess what? Johnny Jennings was able to sell their home in 10 days and negotiate a 40-day rent back. Isn't that great?
Yeah, see, that's what happens when you work with like professionals and you're able to really trust that they are going to do what needs to be done no matter what. And Johnny and his team are exactly that. If you'd love to maybe find out how much you could get for your house, high-end, low-end offers, or maybe just a cash offer and be done, you can reach out to Johnny Jennings and his team at tomdaves.com. That's Tom, DAVES.com. Or you can always call 855-TOM-DAVES. You will not be disappointed. License number 581-837.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So I have started changing the way that I drive to the radio station every morning.
Really?
Yeah, because I used to come and it would take me on the business 80 and then you just pop me off. And then traffic was getting bad, so I started rerouting to some surface streets. And I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do the surface streets anymore. I just don't.
Where are you going with this?
Like
I'm confused.
You don't like, because what the surface streets that makes me go down, there's like miles and miles and miles of homeless people.
Oh, right.
And so part of me, it's a really weird like
because you see the RVs and the tents
and the boats. Like what?
The
living
boats.
in a boat, like
I don't think I've seen a boat, but is that a new thing?
There's at least two boats.
How do they afford an RV and a boat?
Well, I think they just drug it there and they said, "Hey, this boat is not floating, but it's staying on the side."
They
of the
saw
road.
on Marketplace somebody trying to get rid of their whole boat, and they're like, "I'll take it."
Yeah, I can
but
sleep
don't
in
you
the
have to
boat.
have a trailer as well for that?
Yeah, it's on the trailer.
So
The
you're
boat's on the
probably
trailer.
driving down like Roseville Road
Yep.
or Auburn Boulevard, and
Yep.
you're seeing this.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's not something you're excited about in the town that you live in, where you're raising your family.
Well, not only like it's just one, like these people need help. Like why are they not being helped?
Yeah.
is one thing, and then two, like it's kind of on them to seek out the help, because there is a lot of
Sure.
help and resources out there. So it's this weird tug and pull between, why don't they help themselves and why aren't they being helped? And so, but anyways, when I'm driving down this road, all I can think of is, man, how do more cars not get flat tires right here? Because there is just crap everywhere. And so I'm like, you know what? It might take me a couple minutes longer, and I might be stuck in gridlock traffic, but I'm just gonna
Stick on the freeway.
stay on the freeway. Yeah, but
And deal with angry road rage drivers who flip you off.
Oh my gosh, there
That's
were
a little
some-
bit easier to deal with than the homeless people.
I'll just stick
Is
in
that
my,
what you're saying?
Yeah, I'll just stay in my lane, and they can be mad, and yeah. But that's actually, unfortunately, it's not just on that one road, right? Squatting is becoming a thing.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, and
it's becoming an increasing problem because of the economy, and there's some kind of loophole or issue with the law where squatters have realized the advantage that they have, that they are able to go into a vacant home, right? Tell me the situation.
It depends on on the city, the county, all this stuff, but like it also depends on what the squatter thinks. Because there's a lot of people that believe, hey, I have rights. I'm just going to pop into this vacant house, and now they can't get me out. And that's not necessarily the case. So if you're a real estate agent, or if you're a homeowner and you're wondering how you would handle the situation, my suggestion is, one, make sure you have the home well lit. Because what happened to us recently is we were selling this property, and it was in Sacramento. The Sacramento PD were phenomenal. No complaints. They were absolutely incredible. So it was driving down. It was a Saturday morning. The neighbor said, "Hey, the lights are on this vacant house." I'm like, that's not a good sign. So drove down. I was hoping the realtor that had shown the home previously just left the lights on. But come to find out, these two homeless people, the boyfriend had kicked the girlfriend out, and she was he'd kicked her out of the home that they were squatting in, ironically
Wow.
enough. And she was in the detached garage. And so we're talking to her and trying to figure out what's going on. And the cops showed up in like 15 minutes. They were really, really quick. And then they were very professional. They went through, there was a lot of needles and drugs and stuff, so they got all that out of the home. And the home was still well maintained, like they hadn't thrashed the place. And so then we went back on the market. And then a week later, somebody broke in again. And then a week later, somebody broke in again. And so we
is this home in a bad neighborhood where
it's in a more challenging neighborhood?
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a good word. More challenging neighborhood.
Challenging, yeah. But what had happened is as soon as it had been identified as vacant,
Sure.
then all of a sudden the homeless people were telling their homeless people friends.
Wow.
And now people were going here. So what you want to do is you want to try to avoid that. And so some things you can do. Sometimes sellers don't want to do this because there are some costs involved. Is getting motion lights set up around the house so it just lights up like Fort Knox. And so that way it deters people from trying to break in if the spotlight is shining on them. You want to get security cameras, either real or fake, right, with the little red blinking light so they can't tell if it's real or not. That'll deter them. So a lot of deterring things. You don't want to you want to make sure the trash cans are getting pulled in and pulled out every single week. Right, so there's just a little bit more work, a little bit more cost associated with this, but it's much better than having to repair damage done to your property by people that are squatting in there who don't really care, and then dealing with getting them out. You can put, if you have a for sale sign, because 10 to 15% of homes on average that sell because of that for sale sign.
Sure.
Like it's a little billboard in front of your house. You can put do not disturb occupants.
Oh,
right?
nice. That's a great
That's something
idea.
you can do, or you just don't put the sign out. You say, hey, you know what? I don't want to deal with it. We're not going to put
Right.
the sign out. But those are some things that you can do to maybe prevent that squatting process from happening. And again, you're going to have to check with your local regulations on what you can and can't do. But I would not be. So I was talking to some realtor buddies, and they were like, "Oh, Johnny, yeah, how'd you get her out? I thought she was going to be stuck in there. Good luck calling the cops." Like you heard all these negative stories, and my experience was completely different
Right.
from the narrative the news is saying.
Okay, got it.
So I wouldn't worry about being a victim. There's options out there. And there's people that are willing to help you with
Maybe
this.
it's rare where the squatters are really resistant and intent on, staying in the home and taking advantage of these legal rights that they feel like they have.
Yeah.
And taking advantage of this home. But there will be squatters, but usually, in most cases, you feel like calling the police will rectify the issue.
Call the non-emergency line, right? You don't
Okay.
if you call 911, they'll still help you out, but it's not,
It's not an
nobody's
emergency,
dying,
right.
And so call the non-emergency line and then get some help. But the best way to do it is prevention, right? The best way
Yes.
to avoid getting a chronic illness is prevention. And so the best way to avoid squatting issues is just making sure that there's lights, there's cameras, and either do not disturb occupants on the sign rider or no
Right.
sign at all.
And if you're a new agent or maybe you're a veteran agent and you're thinking, man, this Johnny Jennings knows his stuff. He's got a lot of experience dealing with this. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And you've got positions open on your team, right? Where you guarantee they're going to make good money if they join the Made for More Living team.
Yeah. No. So we've had agents, clear $20,000, like net $20,000 a month, but they're following the system. They're putting
Your
in the
system.
work. They're following the Made for More system,
Right.
and they're putting in the work. They're not just showing up, drinking coffee, and cashing
Right,
checks.
exactly. Yeah. And so they can go to madeformoreliving.com to try to schedule an appointment, sit down with you and see if they're a good fit for your team.
Yeah. Google us too. Check out our reviews and give us a call. Like we're here to help.
What else is going on?
Yeah, so in the wonderful world of real estate, I'm starting to hear more about this whole commission lawsuit. Have you heard about this?
No.
So basically,
This is that big realtor lawsuit, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
That
like-
was actually settled.
There's spin-off lawsuits, like it's an ongoing thing. But essentially, I'm having this conversation almost daily in living rooms because everybody has heard about it, but everybody has a different opinion on what is actually going on. And so just to provide some clarity and context, all that the ruling states is that you are not required in the MLS. You are not required to put the buyer broker compensation in there. That's all it's stating. So currently, in many parts of the country, that had already gone into effect a long time ago. In the Sacramento area, you just had to put $1 in there, like a minimum of you just had to put something in the field. Like it wasn't like price fixing like how the news makes it out to be. But they are essentially in July removing that field. So people are thinking, hey, that means I no longer have to pay my buyer's agent, or that means I can get reduced commissions somewhere. Absolutely, commissions are 100% flexible. But what we're seeing in states that have already implemented this like a long time ago is that people who are not offering buyer broker compensation, either publicly or privately, their homes are sitting on the market longer because affordability is a thing. It's really expensive to buy a home. And so if you're having to come up with the down payment, if you're having to come up with the closing costs for the loan, if you're having to come up with now paying your real estate agent 2-3%, whatever it is, there's no set fee, but whatever that fee is, that's a lot of money to now come out of pocket as a buyer. And so buyers are like, the homes are sitting on the market longer because they don't want to necessarily go with the listing agent. There's a misconception out there that, hey, if I'm buying a home and I'm working with the listing agent, I'm going to get a deal on that home. Maybe, maybe not. I can't speak to it 100% of the time. But what I can say is that if you're in that situation, you've essentially hired your spouse's divorce attorney to represent you.
That's a great analogy.
Right? So it's like, how do they 100% have your best interests in mind? And so, anyways, so that's kind of what's happening. There's not a whole lot of changes taking place. We won't even know how this shakes out. But so if you're hearing about the lawsuits and you hear about the commissions have not come down. Commissions have not changed. They've always been negotiable. It's just how it's being displayed on the MLS is changing. And honestly, that's a good thing. You shouldn't. A buyer's agent shouldn't be able to shop. Hey, this is paying me X amount of dollars, and this is paying me less. I'm going to show the homes that are showing me more. That's not really giving transparency, and that's not fulfilling your fiduciary responsibility to your client. Like it should be blind.
Right. And if you're a realtor and you want more information on this, you can go to madeformoreliving.com. Or if you're thinking about buying a home or selling a home, Johnny Jennings and his team, they're going to give you all the information because educating people is super critical and important for you guys. That's
the basis because we do this daily, like helping people buy and sell homes. Most people sell a home, every 7-ish years, 7 or more. And so what has happened the last 7 years, there's been a lot of changes. And sometimes you forget about the process as a homeowner. And you don't have a clear picture. So what we want to do is we want to sit you down, go over the expectations. This is how the process works. This is how we net you more money. This is how we make the process easy for you. And here are the next steps. So then that way you know that we're a professional. It's similar to walking into a doctor's office, right? You sit down, you fill out the questionnaire, and then the doctor goes over the things with you, and you trust the doctor because they know everything at this point. That's what we do with the clients. And the good news is that unlike a doctor, if we don't sell your house, you don't have to pay us. The doctor can give you a prescription or say, hey, take this, it'll make you better, and you're still sick.
I'm guessing this is the issue.
I'm guessing.
Hopefully this prescription will work.
Come back in 2 weeks.
But I can guarantee you're going to pay me the bill of what I've written out.
So you're only paying us if it works.
Right. That's great. And again, they can go to madeformoreliving.com, madeformoreliving.com. And what we like about you, Johnny, and your family and your whole team is that you guys are transparent. You're honest. And I think that's important for people. Whether you're a real estate agent, you're working as a broker, you're a vendor working with roofing, plumbing, whatever. If you're a client or someone that wants to sell their home, buy their home, you want someone you can trust that's transparent, that's going to educate you and help you. And that's you guys at Made for More Living.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
So, hey, if you're listening to today's show and you're thinking about putting your home on the market, but you think, man, it's just not in great shape, I still need to do some more repairs, but I don't have the time or the money, Johnny Jennings has a fix before you list it program. He'd love to help you sell your home fast and for the most money possible. Just reach out to madeformoreliving.com, madeformoreliving.com.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So I was talking with Matt the other day, and he was telling me the story about this roofing company where they were on the roof. They have it 90% demoed, and then all of a sudden they get a call from the neighbor, and they're like, "What are you guys doing over there?" And they're like, "Well, the homeowner said we were supposed to remove. Like, we're replacing their roof." They're like, "Are you sure?" And so then the foreman or whatever calls to confirm the address, and they are on the wrong roof. Crazy. But luckily they ended up, making it right, and they ended up saying, "Hey, you know what? We're going to install this roof for free. Just please don't sue us." It became a marketing thing. But man, that is a crazy story. Free roof for free. It reminds me of what is that? When you're at Starbucks and somebody buys you a cup of coffee, and then you buy the person behind you a cup of coffee. What's that called, John?
Yeah, you pay it forward.
Pay it forward. Yeah. So in the studio today we have Jon Loveland with Loveland Roofing, and man, they are just a super cool company. We've been working with them now for a few months. And John, tell us a little bit about what your story, real quick.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me, Johnny. It's funny you say that because that happens in the roofing industry. And
how often?
It probably happens a little more often than people would like.
Okay.
We've done that, but not the same way. We actually had a similar story where our guys pull up to a house, they start tearing off the roof, and when you tear off the roof, usually all the roofs in the neighborhood are in the same condition, so all of them should be torn off. And so the guys start tearing off the wrong roof. They were tearing off the neighbor's roof. But luckily, to be honest, both of the neighbors were on our schedule.
Okay.
And so instead of us, having to really, shuffle, it was more of a, "Oh, hey, by the way, guess what? Now you're at the top of the schedule because we started it today."
Yeah, we just want to prioritize you.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Free priority.
So Loveland Roofing, you guys have been around for a long time.
Yeah, we have. We've been around for over 42 years. I'm Jon Loveland. Loveland's our last name. It's kind of funny. Sometimes people say, "Hey, where'd you get the name from?" No, that's our family business. My dad started it, Mike, and
Wow.
and him and I own it together now, father son. Yeah.
Got it. So, I mean, there's a lot of realtors out there in the world. There's other roofing companies out there. What is it? What can you give us some examples of things that you've done where you've helped people maybe beyond the scope of what a typical roofer would do?
Yeah. I'd say the biggest difference, at least on our side of things, is maybe the customer experience. In the roofing industry, it's a little sad, but it's true. There's a stereotype that roofing contractors are maybe not exactly trustworthy, or maybe a grimy, sketchy kind of industry. No one in kindergarten really says, "I want to grow up to be a roofer one day."
Yeah.
It's hard work. It's very, very challenging. And us, Loveland Roofing, we try and break that mold. When you mentioned that, I thought of this really nice client we had over in Auburn. Her name was Pam. This was just maybe about a year ago. She called us, and I didn't know it at the time, but we were like the fourth or fifth roofer that she called. And she knew she needed a new roof. And a little bit about Pam, it was a little sad because she's an elderly woman, and she's a recent widow. Her husband just passed away about a year ago. And so she's on a very fixed income. And then on top of that, her mother moved in with her. So now she's taking care of her mother, who's obviously older than she is. And so she had a lot on her plate, and obviously the roof is not one that she wanted to add on to it. So she called us. We do, in our house at Loveland Roofing, we do a 50-point inspection for free. And so it's very detailed and comprehensive. And so when we went out there, she was just thrilled because, we look at the roof 360 degrees. We look at all the wood, the flashings, everything you can kind of imagine. And our reports are very detailed. And so when we sat down with her and went over all these things, she said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for just going in the backyard," because 2 other roofers I called, they didn't even look at my backyard. They just kind of looked at the roof for 5 minutes and then went on to the next one. And
Really?
And she said, "Because I had a bunch of damage back there. Nobody noticed it. I had all this dry rot." Which, obviously in the real estate world and any homeowner world, it's a big issue. Dry rot's a big issue. She was just thrilled working with us. And really the funny part of Pam is when we sat down with her in her house, for those radio listeners, maybe not seeing in person, our company's purple. It's a lot of purple. I'm sitting here in the studio with a very purple shirt on, and our trucks are purple. Our tools are purple. It's really kind of goofy on purpose.
You guys roll out the purple carpet.
Yeah, that's our thing, the purple carpet. And when we walk into Pam's house, her house is purple. She's got purple shag carpet, purple like lazy boy recliner, purple pillows. She was just love at first sight for her. It was so funny, but yeah, really the kicker there that we tried to do kind of a different customer experience was, as I sat down with her, I told her, average roof ranges, 20 to 40 grand, and she's telling me about her fixed income and her husband who just passed away. And I said, well, hey, you can finance this. We can. There's a lot of options. You can do this or this or this, and we're kind of talking through it together. And then she just starts to cry and she starts to break down, and she said, "You can finance a roof?" She's like, "That's a thing." She said, "You're the fourth roofer I've called. No one's brought this up to me. I mean, I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford 30 grand for a new roof, but I need it." You look on her ceiling and there's just water coming in, damaging her home. But she said, I can afford $100 a month. I can do that. And that was a really kind of humbling experience for me personally too, because, we're all human. Even though we run a business and we're trying to help people, it's important to know that people have struggles and that people need help sometimes. And so it was a fun time with her to be able to be that person to give her that help.
Man, that you bring up such a good point. I was on a phone call the other day, actually last night, with a real estate agent, and she's looking to get in the industry. And I'm asking her, okay, so what about it? The industry is attracting you to this? And she said, well, my parents bought a house, and then they were eventually foreclosed on. They had tons of equity in the house, but they didn't even know to call a real estate agent. There's a language barrier there. There was just a lack of information. And if they had the right information, things would have been totally different for her family. So she's like, I want to make sure I'm getting in the industry and providing people with the correct information, which sounds like exactly kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, we're very big into educating our customers. Our reports are like 20 pages. They're extremely transparent. I
love your reports, by the way. Yeah. They're easy to read. The red light, yellow light, green light thing.
Yeah. We do like kind of an urgent, recommended, and then you're okay zone, red, yellow, green. And that's kind of our thing too. Education, knowledge is everything. And when you know about your home a little bit more, then it gives you the peace of mind you need.
Yep. So how did things end up playing out with Pam? Was she able to get the roof on?
Yeah. We, after we talked, we got her scheduled for the roofing project, and we got everything fixed for her. She had quite a doozy of a home that just hasn't been maintained for probably 10 plus years. And so it had a lot of damage that kind of accumulated over that time. But yeah, we got her all fixed up and got her a new roof and got her everything she needed. And she was thrilled. And yeah, still is today. Wow.
And so that was just a person living in the home. That wasn't like they were going through a real estate transaction.
Yeah.
You guys handle that as well, right?
Oh, yeah, all the time. We work with hundreds of real estate partners, property management. That's honestly, we have a whole division of our company who just does that all day, every day. And so, yeah, that's a big part of buying a house. And me personally, I've bought a couple houses in my time, and the roof is a big kind of ticket item to make sure if I'm buying this house, is it going to be in good shape?
So do you guys provide roof certs when you go out?
We do. Yeah. We give that free full inspection, that 50-point inspection, which really tells the new homeowner, hey, this is what you're walking into. It's very transparent and educational in nature. And then, if they're able to get kind of an extended warranty, that 2-year roof certification gives them a little bit of peace of mind to say, hey, okay, we're moving in, we're unpacking, don't got to worry about the roof for at least a couple of years.
So when you're working with somebody who's going through a real estate transaction, what are some red flags? What are some stories behind things that you've seen working with real estate agents and just going through that process?
Yeah. It's overwhelming for a new buyer because there's a lot of stuff on that list that they need to punch through. So a lot of customers, and I would recommend it, they do a home inspection, and then that home inspector they try and look at every inch of that house top to bottom, and then tangentially to that, they'll oftentimes get a roof inspection and a pest report, termite report, looking at some of the things like foundation and woodwork, framing, things like that. And it's a lot on their plate. So we try and simplify it, and we try and streamline that process as best we can to say, hey, this is the home you're getting. Yeah, maybe it's 20, 30 years old of a home, but it's still a great home. That roof is 80, 90% in great shape. Here are some things you should pay attention to, because if the next rainstorm comes, this is the thing you want to really focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are some? So you mentioned that. Were you talking about a pre-list inspection, or were you talking about like in escrow inspection?
Both. We do both. I would say pre-list helps the most.
Why is that?
At least for the seller, they can really get their home and their roof and their pool, whatever it might be. They can get everything ready so that when a buyer comes in, there's no surprises. Like that's always the worst. If you're halfway through escrow and then you find all these reports and they owe another $5,000 on damages or something,
Man, that's the thing that we're hitting really hard with our clients right now.
That happens.
Do the pre-list. And in many instances, we will even pay for the pre-list inspections, the home, pest, roof. Like I got 2 going right now: home, roof, pest, and pool. Yep. Right, and the reason why we do it isn't because like we have some secret back end deal with Loveland Roofing. It's because it's going to net them more money. It's going to make them more money. In the long run. And so So what if someone wanted to reach out to Loveland Roofing? What's the best way for them to do that?
There's a lot of ways. The fastest, easiest is pick up the phone, call the office. But we're very tech heavy in our company. We're 99% digital, so people can text us. They can even FaceTime us. Sometimes that happens. Email, real easy. Even on the website, contact form on Google and things like that.
Yeah, speaking of Google, just Google Loveland Roofing.
Yeah,
right, Google them. You'll see they have tons of reviews. How many reviews you guys at right now?
Yeah, we're this week we were hitting the 500 mark of 500 5-star reviews. So that's kind of fun for us.
That's exciting. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Johnny.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
It's crazy what's been happening recently to Tesla. Wish no ill will against those people. But what is crazy about these big businesses is sometimes they feel cold and disconnected, and it's all about the bottom line and less about the customer, less about even the employees. So, for example, in Tesla, I heard a story about how during these massive layoffs that they've been doing, people showed up carpooling with like 3 other coworkers. Those 3 other coworkers maybe had their job, and the one guy didn't. Mm-hmm. And so he had to call somebody, and they had to, family had to come out and pick him up from the Gigafactory, right? But it's big. They're doing their best what they got. But at the end of the day, it's more about numbers and maybe a little bit less about the end consumer. But that's not what you have going on there at Loveland Roofing at all, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We are a family business. I'm Jon Loveland. My dad and I own it, Mike Loveland. And even in our business, even though we've grown a lot over the years, we have like 4 other families as a part of the business. We have a father and 2 sons. We have another father and a son. We have 3 brothers that are all kind of huddled in this outer umbrella of the Loveland Roofing family.
That's really cool. So you grew up doing this?
I did. Yeah. A little bit about the Loveland Roofing family is I have 2 other brothers, no sisters, so we're a family of 3 boys, and all 3 of us grew up roofing. We, the earliest memories I have of us roofing is my dad used to take us in our car seats in the truck, and we'd drive around town looking at roofs with him. And that was our tradition. He would take us to 7-Eleven, we'd get a Slurpee, and then he'd have me be his little navigator. Before cell phones were a thing or GPS, I'd break out the Thomas guide, and he'd send us around. I'd say, okay, turn right here, and we're going down, Roseville Parkway, and then 20 years later, so now I have a couple kids, I have a wife, and it's funny because he tells us now, he says, the whole reason I did that back then was to give your mom a break. We got 3 boys at home. They're running around breaking things all the time. I mean, he was working from sun up to sundown, and he couldn't go home and babysit, but what he could do was take his boys out on the roof with them, and it's a fun memory for me.
Wait, on the roof with them? Like, this has changed for me. It went from being car seat, like a protective environment, to being up on a roof. So when's the youngest you got on a roof?
Too early to remember. Probably 8, 6, maybe something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was envisioning like 2.
Yeah, maybe not a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
At least I hope not.
He doesn't need the ladder. Just catch him. We'll toss him up. Wow. So you got started early, and now you and your dad are running the business.
Yeah. Now we run it together. So me and my other brothers, we grew up roofing, and we grew with the company. We've done all the positions. We've been the roofer and the foreman and the inspector, and now my dad and I, it's kind of fun. He's passed on the torch, and he's kind of had this legacy he's created in 4 decades in the Sacramento area.
Wow!
And now we own it together, and we're buddies, and hopefully one day my son Jack can get a hammer in his hand.
What? You got a kid named Jack?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So my kid is technically John the 4th. right? But all 4 of us, thankfully, are still alive. So the OG, John Jennings, is still alive. He's in his mid to late 80s. And then my dad's the second one. And then I'm the third. And then Jack is the fourth. But I like to be called Johnny. And so I was like, well, I don't want to call, the youngest. I don't want to call number 4 Johnny. We're just going to call him Jack. So turns out Jack was the nickname for John F. Kennedy.
Oh, there we go.
So that's kind of where I got it from. I was like, what's another nickname for Johnny? But that's wild. So is your son actual Jack, or is it Jackson?
It's actual Jack, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. How'd you come up with Jack?
I've always loved the name Jack, and I knew the same because my name's John, Jonathan, but I go by John. And I thought the same thing, that some people call John's Jack. Yeah. And I wanted him to be named Jack, but I didn't want there to be any discrepancy. So
okay, so you're like all in on the Jack.
Yeah, all in.
There you go. That's awesome. But you mentioned that you were previously, as you were going through the different jobs involved in roofing, you mentioned inspections. Mm-hmm. And that seems like that would be a skill set in and of itself, is it not? Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, it's a huge deal to have someone inspect your roof that honestly knows what they're looking at. Yeah.
So how do you if I was a consumer, if I was looking to get a roof replaced or have work done on my roof, how would I be able to tell a good inspector from maybe a not so good inspector?
Yeah, I think the proof is in just what they find and how transparent they are with it. It's kind of hard because it's similar to a mechanic. You go to one mechanic, he might say, replace your whole engine. You go to another one, he might say, oh, you're fine, just get an oil change, And we try and break that mold with that 50-point inspection. We lay it all out, start to finish. We say, hey, here's your green area, your yellow area, and your red area. And there's actually one customer we had just a few months ago. His name was Jerry, over in Sun City. Just over in Lincoln, and he was an elderly man who was on a fixed income, and he had this recurring leak in his home for years, for like 5 or 6 years, and the leak kept coming back, and he called 4 or 5 roofers over those years. And
6 years?
Oh yeah, it just kept, and the worst part is it would come sometimes during the winter, but not other times, and it was just driving him mad, and he was starting to really lose faith in the roofing industry in general.
Yeah, I would too.
It was sad. So then he called us, and to be honest, we have 42 years experience, and we've pretty much seen it all. And when there's just a strange scenario and a leak that just seems to be coming from nowhere, we break out the big guns. And this one, my dad, Mike, he actually went out on this inspection himself, the founder, and he met with the homeowner, Jerry, and we did some intensive testing. We did some water tests, and we're trying to see how the water flows through the roof because roofs aren't meant to be 100% waterproof, from top to bottom. It's you stick my house at the bottom of the ocean, it's going to leak at the roof,
Oh.
It's the roofs are meant to divert the water off of the roof into your gutters, into the dirt. So long story short, after a lot of detective work, we were able to find that the leak was actually coming from the gutter system not properly routing the water around the home as it should, and then it was shooting into this one area, but only on a really hard rainstorm. And so he couldn't see it 100% of the time, but then it would come up right when it makes him upset the most, So
the roofers had their tunnel vision on, and they were only looking at it from a roofing perspective rather than, hey, it might be a gutter issue.
Yeah, it's a system. It's a full system, just like a car. If something breaks, it might not just be the engine, it could be the transmission, or it could be something else. Same thing with roofing. There's a lot of components to it, and it's not just that there's a hole in the roof. It could be, a collection of things that contribute.
That's an interesting point. So how do you train your guys to look beyond just the roof? Because if you go to, if you have knee pain, you can go to a surgeon. He's going to say, "I'll give you surgery." If you go to a therapist, they say, "Do this." If you go to a chiropractor, let me crack you. How do you train your guys to be excellent at investigating roofs?
Yeah, it helps a lot that we have an in-house training program with our roofers specifically. So all of our inspectors used to be roofers. So their experience of actually going and seeing damaged roofs and fixing those areas, then when they go to a new roof they haven't looked at before, they can see it pretty quickly and they say, oh yeah, I just fixed this type of thing last year. That helps a lot. And then to be honest, our 50 points, it's a real 50-item list, and we have black and white definitions of what is going to start to cause that leak and why. And to be honest, that just comes from the 42 years of experience that we learned where the line is, that in this scenario, it's not going to cause a leak, but in this one, it will.
So 42 years, about how many roofs do you think Loveland's done?
Oh, goodness. at least 20,000, I'd say.
20,000?
Yeah.
So do you drive through neighborhoods and go, I did that roof, I did that roof, I did
Especially
that roof?
my dad. But that's like it's like the typical dad thing to do. He's like, oh, yep, I did that one back in 97, did that one back in 82. Like,
wow.
It's pretty funny.
That's cool. I mean, that's what Valerie does.
Yeah,
my wife, she drives through, I sold that house, I sold that house, I sold that house. Oh.
We even have it's really fun when we've had maybe a couple dozen customers do this where, this sweet old lady will call us and she'll bring out of her filing cabinet a very old paper and she'll say, yeah, back in 1989, Mike came by and roofed our house and it's been 30 years. The roof has reached its life and I'd love for you to roof it again.
Wow.
And those are fun to see because that's kind of the proof in the pudding a little bit.
Absolutely. Like, how do you remember your roofer after 30 years? Like, remembering by name. Oh my gosh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So what other stories you got for us?
Yeah, one more that I can think of is this was just a few months ago, actually. We had a customer who he called maybe 2 or 3 roofers, and he had a very unique ask that he wanted the project. He had his dream house. It's just over in Roseville. He has his dream house, and he wanted to replace all the gutters and the leaf guards. But because of the style of his home, he had this very unique concrete tile type of house, and it's a nice house. And so because of that, the roofer and the gutter company would have had to remove basically the whole perimeter of the roof just to access it and then install all these new items and then put the roof back together in a way that it didn't damage it, because the roof's 20, 30 years old. And so he called a couple roofers and they both told him, nope, this is just too big of a project. This isn't something we want to do. It's too much hassle, too much headache. Yeah. And that's not uncommon, to be honest. And then he calls us and our inspector went out. Our inspector's name's Tavin, and he went through everything top to bottom with them. And he said, yeah, this is a very unique thing you're looking for, but we've been doing this for 4 decades. This is right in our wheelhouse, And to be frank with you, 20, 30 years ago, we might have passed it up because it is a big project that takes multiple crews, big machinery. But since we've grown over the time, and especially with our experience, we know what to expect when we get into it. Mm-hmm. And so we did. And so we had to get a few crews out there. We had to it was a couple day job just to get this specific type of gutter system he was looking for. And we did. We got it all fixed for him. We replaced everything for him. And now he's thrilled. Now he's got his dream home with his dream roof and his dream gutters, and he's really happy to put it in the rearview mirror.
There you go. Well, that's incredible. So I was actually on a appointment recently, and it hasn't hit the market yet, so I don't want to give up too much information. But is it terracotta? Terracotta is a typical like red tile.
Yeah.
But this is like Spanish style, where it's like tile and then lumps of concrete.
Yeah.
Tile lumps of concrete. So I never thought about the different types of roofs that are out there that even a roofer wouldn't be willing to take on a job. Like what's Loveland's wheelhouse? Like, what type of roofs do you do? Are there any roofs you don't do?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because there are a lot of types of roofs out there. In the greater Sacramento area, I'd say 99% of the roofs are either asphalt shingle or a concrete tile of some sort. That one that you just mentioned, it's a terracotta tile. It's technically a clay tile. I mean, that's what they've been using for centuries. You go to Spain, that's what they have on their roofs.
And missions and stuff.
Yeah, exactly, like a mission. And we do it all. We do all those things. I mean, there's pros and cons with each of them. But
it looks cool.
It does, yeah.
But I'm like, man, if you need to repair that, what's that going to cost?
Yeah, it's a little. It's a more expensive material because it's like a natural clay from the dirt,
Yeah.
And it is more labor intensive because it's not traditionally built. It's built with, cement and mortar, as opposed to just nails and wood. So.
Sure.
But no, yeah, that's a great one.
So when somebody's looking at owning a home, or they've lived in a home for a while, and maybe they've gotten your 50-point inspection report, and there's red, yellow, green zones on there, how does somebody can you give anybody suggestions on how to maintain the roof? Like, what are some best things to prolong the life of the roof? So that way they don't have to shell out $30,000 sooner than they need to.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Maintenance and prevention is the key. I mean, it's just like owning a car where, if you never get an oil change, your engine's probably going to blow. But if you are good and consistent with your oil changes and your check-ins and your tune-ups, then you can really get a lot of life out of it. So I would recommend that you get your roof professionally inspected, and we do it for free, so it's no cost. But I recommend probably once a year is a good mark.
Really, that often?
It depends if you have a concrete tile home or an asphalt shingle roof. To be honest, me personally, I bought a home just a few years ago in Roseville, and it's 20, 25 years old, and it has a concrete tile roof. And I'm a roofer. When I bought the home, I inspected my own roof, and I had fixed a bunch of little maintenance things here and there because, tiles crack and break, and things just kind of need a little tune-up here and there.
Yeah.
And I did that. And then the next Christmas, I went up to put my Christmas lights on, and there's a bunch of newly broken tiles in just the last 12 months. And it's just, just the world we live in, that things break and wear apart. Concrete tile homes, they last a long time, but they do need maintenance every 1 or 2 years. Usually it's little things, but if you forget about those things and let it stretch out more and more, it's going to turn into bigger things.
You bring up a good point. So there was another house, where was I? In Ripon, if you know where that is. Ripon. First time I visited, I called it Ripon. They knew I was not from the area. But in Ripon, they had these trees. I can't remember the trees, but they dropped little balls. Mm-hmm. And the balls, when they drop really small, as they get wet, they expand. And they had some major roofing issues because of these stinking trees. Mm-hmm. So you bring up a good point about the maintenance of a roof. So if they call you out, they go Google Loveland Roofing. They see your 500+ reviews. They call you out for the free 50-point inspection. What's typical maintenance cost if they were to get it repaired?
Yeah, that's a great question. Asphalt shingle roofs last a long time and only need maintenance maybe every 5 years. That's kind of the trade-off. Concrete tile roofs usually last longer, but need maintenance every 2 years.
Okay.
That maintenance, it ranges. It could be as cheap as $300 or $400. But sometimes if you forget the maintenance and 5, 10, 15 years goes by and that starts to really pile up, it could be a few $1,000s in maintenance.
Oh, wow. Okay. But hey, it's better to address it than ignore it.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not going away.
It really just saves you money more than anything.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, hey, the last way that they can get a hold of you, best way is go to Google and just type in Loveland Roofing.
Yep, just Google Loveland Roofing, check out our reviews, and give us a call. Happy to help.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Johnny.
Well, guys, there is a reason why Johnny Jennings and the Made for More Living team are #1 in all of Sacramento, why they have so many great Google reviews, why we trust them, and you should too. It's because they get more money for folks and in less time. No matter what kind of condition your home is in, Johnny Jennings would love to help you, maybe even get you an all-cash offer. Reach out to Johnny Jennings at madeformoreliving.com. That's madeformoreliving.com.